Okay, Rabbi sign. Okay, so I want to go over a little bit what we were talking about yesterday on the different types of bows, the anivas, and then I want to make sure to get the ties done today, and some of the shoelace stuff done today. Okay, so first of all, right, we'll go over it again just briefly. This, just going through one time, like the bottom of your shoes. It's called in English. It's called an overhand knot. It has the din halach like a kesher, but it's a kesher that is mutter. It is a kesher, but it's a kesher that's mutter. All right. Why is the kesher mutter? Because with a little pressure it comes apart. It doesn't really hold well at all. Okay. That's the bottom kesher of your shoe. All right. Then we're going to be talking about a niva al gabi kesher. So you make your bow on top. All right. Make your bow on top. This is worse than the kesher alone because the bow holds in the kesher. That's the Avi Nezer says. The bow holds in the kesher. It has a din of a kesher, so it has to be let out within 24 hours, or it's usher to do it.
But
now, even though l'chara, that's what we were talking about yesterday. According to Sfari Poskim, did hold like the Rif, and according to the Rif, there's no such thing as 24 hours. Because according to the Rif, once it's less than l'olam, it's mutter l'chatchila, it's not a problem at all. But we found the Arletzion and the Kaf HaChaim and Chachma Vajra, they were always talking about the shoelaces within 24 hours. Okay, the Chazon Vajra says 7 days, but he shouldn't have 7 days either. Right? He uses 7 days. So they all have a problem with the shoelace. Okay, they have a problem with the shoelace, which doesn't make 100% sense, but we'll try to make some sense out as we go along. Probably not today as part of this. Okay, so fine. So that is the first kesher. When you do your shoes, I think we spoke about it last time, so you have your first knot and then you have your bow on top. For the little kids or the big kids, so the shoelace should not come out undone. So some might make another kesher on top like this to go around one more time, right? That to make it hold, and it does a very good job for the kids. So the problem with that is you have a kesher and then a niva in between, and then a kesher on top of it. So you really have a double kesher, and it does hold very well, right? 90% of the poskim hold is no good, because it's kesher gabi kesher. That's called kesher gabi kesher. Either there's a niva in the middle, who cares? It holds it tight. Kesher kesher is tight. Yes. One seif I saw, he wanted to say that's mafsik in the middle and all that, but his tainas were all very, he ignores the mehudik. He says it doesn't have a, he says it doesn't have a tsura of a kesher shel uman. He says it doesn't have a. There's no double niva. This is a kesher, a niva, and then making a second kesher on top.
That's not a niva.
No.
That's what he did yesterday.
That's what you said is a niva, but that's a kesher. That's why I kept telling you it's just like a kesher. Lamais is just like a kesher, right? Right. Nobody says it's a niva. It's a kesher. You just say it's a 2-rope kesher. It's a double rope kesher.
Yeah, but if you did an aniva on top of that aniva, it would be okay, right?
So what is aniva?
You did a one kesher, then you did the aniva, and if you did an aniva on top of that aniva, Rabbi said that was okay, right?
That would be okay. Then you make another niva. Another niva would be like this. Right. Make another niva, so that when you pull it out, that comes out, and that comes out, and this comes out. Right. That's a double niva because it says the niva is all right. But a kesher on top is no good. Almost all the poskim seem to hold that it's no good, right? Someone wanted to say that it's mafsik in between, so it doesn't have its surah of a maisa uman. But we're not talking about surah of maisa uman. Kesher gabi kesher is because it's muhudik, not because it's surah of a maisa uman. So it's, unless he means, I don't know, it's just too complicated of a knot to be maisa uman. Most hold it's no good. You shouldn't do that type of kesher.
So
okay, fine.
The double aniva is what we call the double knot?
No. So now I'll do for you a double niva. Yesterday we had an asik. What's a single niva? All right. A double niva is like this, right? The first knot you make on your shoes, you pull this underneath like this, right? So instead of pulling that underneath completely, you just pull it through like this and leave it as a loop, right? I think a niva means loop. I think so, right? Make a lula like this. Then you go around this and make another niva. That's the niva gabi niva. Right? When you pull it apart, when you pull it apart, so it comes apart completely. There's nothing left at all. Not even a kesher left. Right? That's mutul kuliyama. That's the best thing you can possibly do. You could even, there's a tzad to say, right? We learned yesterday that the Mordechai holds that a niva al gabi kesher right? Aniva a kesher is aser, right? He holds it's aser. Says the Mishnah Berurah, he says it says the Ramah, it's mutter, right? Aniva a kesher is mutter. Says the Mishnah Berurah, we're machmer in between. We don't look at it like it's a kesher shel uman, right? Like the Mordechai does, but we look at it as a kesher. So since it is some form of a kesher, right? Some form of a kesher, so you have to undo it within 24 hours. That's what he says. So l'chara, if you want it to be machmir like the Mordechai, right? If you tie a double niva, then you're machmir like the Mordechai, and then you can't lose.
Okay, just to decide that if I kick my Shabbat shoes off on
Not
Shabbat,
now.
it's no good.
No, that's later. Not up to that yet. Okay, not up to that yet. So again, if you just push it through, pull it halfway through, make one aniva, then go around, make a second aniva. That's a double aniva. There's nothing. Mamish, nothing left. It's mutal kuliyama. Everything's fine. Okay. What we were bothered by yesterday, right? What we were bothered by yesterday is what's a single aniva? What's a single aniva? So, I just did niva gabi niva. So maybe that's what a single niva is. Let me do it again. When you go over, so we're going to pull it through like this, right? That's what I said, pull it through like this. And that's the first aniva. So the chayr doesn't do anything. There's nothing there. There's just like nothing to it. It doesn't hold it at all, right? So someone suggested maybe an aniva. It's a niva without a kesher, right? My taino on that that's just a single kesher. Mm-hmm. It's a two-sided single kesher. So why is that called a niva b'chlal? It should be no different than a regular kesher. And so we proved that today, right? Because when we say you make a regular shoe and then you double it over again, you make the second knot on top. So that's considered to be a kesher. According to you, it wouldn't be a kesher, right? So that was the problem. So I wanted a tiny yesterday, and I found more. I found a raya from it. I found a Rabbeinu. He brings down a Rabbeinu Tam Menachos that seems to say like that. It's a little complicated, but we wanted to say that the single niva is what we call a slip knot. You go around like this, right, and you pull it through. That's a slip knot. Whoops! Oh no, I'm sorry. Right, let me make it again. Right, this is what I do on the edge of a bag with the cookies. Right, you make a loop around, and you pull it through, and it holds very tight. It holds very tight. You could put this around. You could hold something together with this. You would hold two things together with it, no problem, because it's a very tight knot. It's a tight knot. But when you pull it out, it's gone. It's gone. When you pull it out, it's gone. Right? See, slip knot like this. Like this. Oh, that's good. Right? A slip knot. So it's a tight knot. I guess this is the aniva. This would be called the aniva. And pull it out, and it's good. Right? So maybe that's what a single aniva is talking about. It's not talking about when you loop two loops together because there's nothing to it. It's just it's just a regular kesher. This is much stronger than that. So maybe that's a single aniva. Right?
How would you make a double aniva?
In double aniva, you make a first aniva first. Pull it through. A double aniva is, like I said, instead of going under, pulling it all the way through, leave it like one aniva, and then go like this and make a second aniva. So that's mashma. That would be mashma that this is called a niva, right? But we just said it's like not mastaber. There should be any problem with such a thing. There's like nothing to it at all. That's really not a knot at all. Okay, so I saw different svarim, right? The Mishnah Berurah is mashma. There's something called a single niva, right? And a double niva is mutter. That's what he says, right? The Mordechai itself, which is what the Mishnah Berurah is quoting, if you look inside, that's not what he says. What he really says is, he says that a niva al gabi kesher is aser. So don't do that. Make a double niva. It makes it sound like that what it says in the Shulchan Aruch that a niva is mutter is talking about a double niva. The Lashon Mishnah Berurah doesn't say that. The Mishnah Berurah says a niva is mutter. And you're allowed to make a double niva. It makes it sound like just two separate things. The Mordechai doesn't say that. He says make a niva, and he says, and that's what it says in the Gemara. The Gemara says, don't make a kesher, make an aniva. So isn't that what we would assume that the Shulchan Aruch is talking about when it says you're allowed to make an aniva? And he says that's called a double aniva. Okay, I'm not sure what it is. I saw different svarim, they say all different things, right? But they're all mutter. A double aniva is mutter. What he called a single aniva is mutter, right? For this, at least, just pulling it through like this is mutter. A slip knot is mutter. They're all mutter. Well, not considered niva. So if you can use any of them, it's good. That's what we did the last time. I guess I shouldn't put that in the side. That's what we said the last time, right? When you come home from the store, right? So we said if you make a knot inside the thing, right? If you make a knot inside, so it's going to be usher because you make it, especially going to try it, you probably will make it more or less tight because that's considered to be one kesher at the end of a rope. So what should you do? So I said make a slip knot. You have to twist it a few times to make it like a rope, otherwise it doesn't work. So you pull it through. Don't pull it all the way through. Leave the end out. Don't pull it all the way through. Right? And then when you want to open it up on Shabbos, don't just pull it like this because it'll get stuck and rip. Just grab onto the knot here and pull it out. Then pull it out and slip it down. If you pull it from here, it'll just rip apart. It doesn't work good. Okay, that's the technical thing. It's not a halacha. All right, so that's for sure good. So whenever you're mesupik, if you can use some type of a slip knot or a double niva, there's no shal at all.
Is a slip knot or it's an aniva?
It's a form of an aniva.
So how would you do a double slip knot?
I don't think you can do a double slip knot.
So it can't be aniva then?
Why not? Who says you have to be able to double it?
Because it says the double aniva is fine, so it can't be an aniva.
If you go the way I said, if you say that there is no thing as a single aniva, then you don't need a single aniva. But it's got to be better. Okay. It's very complicated. Okay, so let me see where am I holding now. What I wanted to do, we did that and then. Okay, so now that was the easy part. Now we're going to do the complicated part. The complicated part is a tie. Okay, now first I want to tell you what is said. What is said about a tie? This is good.
It's not sleeping.
I agree with all garbage.
That's why he brought it.
Okay, a tie now. So if you look through the poskim, you're going to get different type of reactions over here. Some want to say it's 100% mutter. You can tie a tie for as long as you want because a tie is a double aniva. A tie is a double aniva. Oh, you could see. A tie is a double aniva. I don't think so.
Stop.
Technical difficulties.
Okay.
So some want to say a tie is a double aniva. So it's mutter to make as long as you want, and all the cheshbonis we talk about in the poskim are bottled. They don't exist anymore, right? Others say, right? The Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Rosh Shlomo Auerbach says. The Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says he says that a tie is a kesher agabi aniva. A niva agabi kesher. It's the same thing.
There's more than one way to make a tie.
We know.
Let the rabbi speak.
Make a time.
Make it time.
Don't give out the ties, please. Okay. So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says it's not true. It's a kesher al gabi. It's a niva al gabi kesher, like a shoe. So therefore, it has to be taken out every 24 hours. For 24 hours. By the time I'm done, I want to know why it's not considered to be a kesher al gabi kesher, and it should be usher to make all together on Shabbos. Okay, those are the different opinions. So again, so they say like this. One sefer they bring down that I have from the Sefer Divrei Chachamim. I don't have it directly from Rav Scheinberg, even though I do remember we were making our own ties. They said that Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Scheinberg, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach all hold that it's a niva al gabi kesher. It's like a pair of shoes. That's why you need the 24-hour problem, right? Rav Nissen Karelitz says it's nothing. It's a niva gabi niva. There's nothing to talk about at all. Mamish nothing to talk about at all. And it's 100% mutter. I can't tell you for sure what he was talking about. I'm not sure what he's talking about. He says there's a certain knot you're tying, it just comes apart when you pull it or that. I don't know what he's talking about. I'm not sure which one. I think I know, but I'm not sure. Because there's so many different things out there, so it's not clear. Rav Simcha Bunim Kohen, he says it's like a niva. He says the first kesher you make is a niva. It's a niva gabi niva, and he said he heard from Moshe Feinstein it's a niva gabi niva. So I have a steer of Moshe Feinstein. So I got to get from someone from Staten Island to hear what they do in Staten Island. It's not something. It's something we should be able to find out. Okay. Very good. So here's the shayla. Let's do a couple ties, and let's see if we can fix this up. That's what I do with my tie all the time. Okay. All right. Now, we're going to analyze it piece by piece. We're going to go piece by piece. Okay? First of all, right, so everyone talks about there's two ways of tying a tie. I'm going to do that first. So just to show that why it falls apart. That's number one. Right? So one way of tying a tie, there's something called a half Windsor. Right? You put the tie like this, go like this. Right? and then you go around the front, and then you go through. That is called a single Windsor, some call it a half Windsor, right? And then there's something called a double Windsor, some call it a full Windsor. Okay. Alright, that is one Windsor. Why it's called one Windsor? Because it only goes, you went around one side, and then you go around the front. The double Windsor, you go around both sides. I think Windsor's the name of a city in England, no? The Windsor Castle or something, yes. Okay. So when you make this tie, right, a single Windsor, so first of all, the nature of the tie is you have the skinny part here. You can move it up and down, right? It adjusts, right? It's adjustable, right? That's why we make it that's why they make ties that way. So you can pull it up. If not, you won't be able to get it over your head. You won't be able to get it off, right? If it's stuck there. Maybe a lot of people hung with ties, right? So you can pull this out like this. This slips right out, right? And then, so that's not much of a knot, this piece here, right? And then this piece over here just comes right apart. Nothing. Okay. So it doesn't end up in a knot. Now let's do a double Windsor. Make it a little higher to make it easier. You make a double Windsor. One from this side. You come around the back and go around the other side. I do not know how you people make your ties. And then you go around the front, over and inside. That's a double Windsor. For your fashion people, that's supposed to make it a bolder knot. So just like glasses and everything else, you know, first the glasses are in style when they're very big, and then they're in style when they're small, and whatever. So this used to be considered a much more choshev knot because it's bold, right? And they decided it's skinny. So in 2 years it'll be back to fat again, right? So that's a double Windsor. So you might think that this will get stuck, right? You pull out the double Windsor. Nothing. So that's not the one we're talking about either. The one we're talking about is the Shelby or the Prat knot. There's probably other cities in England. Americans don't know how to make ties. Okay, so the Prat knot works like this. You start with the tie upside down, right? You come through here like this. Then you go around like this in front. Then you bring it from behind.
That's a nice knot.
That's a beautiful knot, right? Beautiful knot like this. Now, so that's called the Prat knot. I have no idea what the Prat or klal of this thing is. Who cares? Whatever. But there are people in the world who understand these things. Why it's different. So this knot, when you pull it apart, it doesn't come out. It's a knot. It's a knot. Someone said it's a loose knot. It's not such a loose knot. I saw one sefer said when you come out, it comes a loose knot. Okay, it's not like tight, but it's not. You have to undo the knot. So that is one knot in a string, right? That's what the Rebbe brought it down at the end. You're not allowed to make it. You're not allowed to make a knot at the end of something. You're not allowed to make a knot. So that and that are really the same thing, right? So this knot is a real problem. This is a real problem knot, right? Because when you're finished, you see there's a real kesher over here. Okay, so this one for sure you should avoid. There's Mekilim on this one too, and it's very funny, but it's no. But this one you should definitely avoid. I don't know if does anybody make their tie like that? You would know because you start upside down. Shelby knot.
It used to be the old knot. It was like a wider. That's what happened.
Well, the old knot was the double one. So you came in right after that. But this is an upside down knot, right? You do it again. You bring it through like this.
I do Windsor.
And then you come around here. It seems like such a simple knot because you just go around one time. But it's not a simple knot. We should make a panoramic view of everyone tying knots behind us. Right? You like that knot? That's a beautiful knot. So when you do this knot, it comes out that when you pull it apart, like I said, it turns into a knot.
So again,
That's a problem.
this, then what?
Oh, right.
How do you do this?
If they don't know how to do something, they don't do it.
If you don't know how to do it, it's a very good sign. That means you're not doing the wrong knot. If you're going to start tying like this, use it for chasnas, do not use it for Shabbos, because you make trouble.
What other knots are there?
There's a whole bunch.
Well, I mean,
Everybody does. What's his name? Zachariah, come up here. We need you over here.
four and a half,
Zachariah's going to come up here and show us how to tie what's called a skinny knot.
or four and a half.
We look for a skinny person for the skinny knot.
Chaya move. He's not so skinny.
I can't do that, bro. It's fine.
Yeah, bro.
It's not really a skinny tie, but we do it anyways. It's also called a four in the hand.
Whose hand?
It's simplest knot. You just go over.
Oh yeah, I got it.
You go over again.
I didn't.
You didn't go over at all. You just kept the.
that's
and
what
then that's
everybody,
it.
yeah.
Then you bring it over and in.
That's the popular one.
It's very popular because skinny ties are popular
Why did
now.
you go 2 times around?
This is called a four in the hand. That's the way
Four
it
in the
is.
hand
Did you do it-
knot.
did you do it again?
I can do it again, sure.
It's the same thing as a double Windsor.
I
It's the
just
same
no,
no,
it's
not
much
at
less
all.
than the-
Much
The
less.
ones who
Look,
goes
pay
in.
again.
Easy
Pay
peasy.
attention again. I'm never going through. I'm just
You don't go
going
through.
around,
Around, completely
completely
That was
around,
my mistake.
and then I go over, and that's it.
That's the one I do all the time. That's the standard. Yeah,
Standard.
it's not a big haters.
Four in the hand.
It works for skinny
That's
ties.
the one.
It works for the skinny
This makes the
ties.
skinniest one. It makes the skinniest knot.
Yeah, it
Well, you
doesn't
need a
work,
skinny
doesn't
tie.
look as nice with thick
Man,
ties,
do the
but
other one.
whatever.
Obama.
Yeah, whatever. Everybody uses.
Oh, Italiano.
And when he pulls it apart,
Look, when you pull it apart,
this one undoes better than anyone else. You don't even have to touch it and it falls apart
Yeah.
because it doesn't never remain around.
It's a flimsy one.
Just go
Very flimsy.
completely around, right?
Well, how do you do
Yes,
this
carefully,
backwards
right?
tie?
yeah, hold it.
Well, you,
Inside like this, and then through.
I feel like I'm preparing myself for
Anyway, you're untying it right away, so what's the difference? You're not leaving it for a day.
Which knot?
So who cares what kind of knot it
This
is?
is Obama.
Because
Asur tie.
it depends what you do.
The Usher time.
Depends when you untie it.
Lario, you all went
It's Usher on
to.
Shabbat.
Okay. Now that we did the different knots,
No Italiano. Oh, it's damn.
pan around the whole place. Go.
This is from a Buddha.
It's a big one. That's the skinny one.
Where'd you get them from?
Sam, Chaya, that what you just did is a stand. What is the other one that people do?
Four
Let me show you what I do every day.
Shidduch, skinny knot.
Yeah.
That's what everybody does.
What's
Okay. Okay, Rabbi Stein?
So this one is Asur on Shabbat?
That's a sword. You did that was the prat knot.
Who's the maker?
Okay.
Who's making?
Sit down. Now we're going to work on it.
This is a nice time. Rabbi, I want to do this one on Shabbat. This is a nice one.
Rabbi Stein, we're going to get back to the shiur now. Please reclaim all the
All my
times.
ties I tie before Shabbos and I leave it.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
That's horrible. You killed the tie.
So, okay, Rabbi Stein.
But you keep the Shabbos.
Now we're going to. Now we're going to try to understand what they're talking about because it's really very schwer. It's not so easy at all, right? It's not easy to understand. Now watch how I do the tie and let's just analyze it ourselves. What's really happening over here, right? Remember, we want to know: is this considered to be a niva al gabi kesher? Is it considered to be a niva al gabi a niva, right? Or is it considered to be a kesher? What is it? Okay, so look. Okay, so first like this, right? I'm just gonna tie a regular tie, a regular Windsor tie, right? Okay. So first you go like this. Everybody say, what is that called?
Kesher.
That's called a kesher. That's a single kesher. Overhand knot. That's a kesher. There's no shiloh about it. It's a kesher. Okay. Okay. Now, all right. So I go around here. This is nothing. This is meaningless, right? This is meaningless. Now I come around over here like this. That's also meaningless. So when I put this through here, what am I doing? Is that another kesher?
No, it looks like the permanent one. It looks like
That's not a kesher?
It looks like the
That's
permanent
a loop and you go through it in the middle. That's not a kesher?
No.
100% kesher.
No, that's more like the.
Can you
boat
do it
that
without
you're
the
keeping-
first step?
like
This is a kesher. There's no aniva over here. There's no aniva over here. This last step over here is I make a loop. Right? Just analyze. I'll tell you what they say afterwards. Why they say you're coming around like this, right? And you're coming around like this. You're making a knot. You're making a second kesher. You're pulling it through.
just like you do with a bow.
Just like in the beginning. This is not. There's no bows. This is a knot.
It's more like a noose, Rebbe, than a knot.
Wait, no, 1 second. Just look at the pieces. Don't look at the overall picture. I'll carry us through. This last thing that you did over here, you went around and you tied in another knot. So you just made a kesher gabi kesher. There's no.
Pull out this part.
How is it?
One second. Let me talk. You just made. This is a kesher. There's no shell. This is a kesher. You're going around and you're making a knot. This is called a knot. You're making a knot. There's no shiloh about that, right? So what are they talking about? This is a kesher gabi kesher. So the again, this one more time. Just look at the things. What are you doing? The pieces. Don't look at the overall picture. What is it? How does it perform afterwards? Right? Just the picture itself. This is an overhand knot. No question about it. Right?
It's not a knot yet.
Right? Okay. That's one knot. That's called one kesher. That's called one kesher in halacha. Right? Like the bottom of your shoe is called one kesher. Now I come around over here, and I pull this through. So I'm making a knot here. This is a knot. There's no bows.
Yeah, that's a knot.
That's a knot.
Yeah, that's a knot.
A bow is when you pull a loop through. This is not. This is a knot. So l'chayra, this should be considered to be a kesher al gabi kesher. That's what it looks like.
If you didn't have your head there and you would pull, it would be a knot.
100%. That's 100. I'm going to do that with you. And Baruch Hashem, I finally found it. I was going crazy over this. I'm sitting here looking at ties and knots. Okay. So why do they hold this as mutter? Why do they hold it's a? Where's the aniva? So this is why there's aniva, because that knot that you tied around this piece over here, that first knot, slides up and down. It doesn't. It's not muhudik. So it's a niva, right? This part's an niva. So be'etzem, if it was up to me, I would tell you that this knot is a kesher al gabi niva. Our shoe is a niva al gabi kesher. The bottom is the kesher, and niva's on top. And this is the bottom piece is called a niva because you never made it into a knot. It doesn't perform as a knot. When we made that first kesher over here,
A little more.
when we make this over here, when you make one kesher,
Okay, good.
when you make one kesher, you make one kesher like this. So there is something there, right? This is something, right? Something exists over here, and then the bow on top holds it in place, right? But I want to say over here that it's not holding it in place. You wrapped around this piece, but you didn't really turn into a kesher.
But if you take your head off and you pull, then it's a real.
Okay. So that's what they say. This is why it's not a kesher. So it's really like this is a kesher on top of a niva. So a kesher on top of a niva is a niva, right? I mean that's the shoes. So within 24 hours you're allowed to tie this. That's the one in time. So my problem with this is their whole kayak comes that you could pull this out like this, right? So I don't understand why we're judging it like that. For example, I need something. One of these ties is a shmata I don't care about.
All of them.
Okay, so let me take one. I want to sew it like this. Okay, it's not long enough. Let me have your arm. We're gonna do an arm.
I'll do myself
Too
skinny enough.
Okay, fine. Are you on? Let's make sure you're on camera.
Yeah.
Now, if I tie one knot and then a double knot, right? That's our whole problem. Double knots is the problem. Okay. So why is this usher? Because to untie it, you have to handle with it, right? Now, if I tie this and make a bow here, right, like a shoe bow, why is it mutter? Because if I pull this end, right, it comes out, right? Now, back to the knot again. I made a knot, right? I'll tell you, this knot is nothing. You know why it's nothing? Because if I pull this, it comes undone. She'll say, no, that's not fair. That's called untying.
That's every double knot.
Every knot is like that. You're untying.
You need two hands to do
So
it.
that's the question that Amram asked, and that's my question, right? When we judge a bow, we judge a bow by pulling the end, right? In other words, what really should happen is like this. Whatever this contraption is over here, right? If I can pull this and it comes apart, then it's a bow.
But it doesn't.
That's what a bow is, right? If I can pull this and it'll pull apart, then it's a bow. If not, it's a knot. This is a knot. It's not a bow, right? So why are we judging a tie that you can slide it out? You can slide any knot out. That was my big kasha. That's what I was very disturbed about. That's why I says a kesher al gabi kesher. So I saw I found a sefer that spoke of it. Called the Abnei Yashva. He was Talmud of Rav Eliashiv, and he asked this kasha. So. Get a tie back here. And I saw one other sefer too. It's very, very. The reason why we're making a film of this is because this is very hard to. It's very hard to put in ksaf. Very, very hard to write it up because it's so confusing. I mean, how are you supposed to write all these things up? So, and one of the Sfarim it says you can't judge the knot like that because your neck's in the way. It says if your neck wasn't there, then it would be no good. And I was trying to figure out what is that talking about. So I think that's what we're saying. In other words, you in your shoelace, the reason why it's mutter is because when you pull this end, it comes apart. And then here, if you pull this end, it doesn't come apart. Except that Sefer said your neck's in the way, right? The reason why you can't make it into a knot is because your neck's sticking in the way. But your neck's not in the way. Of course, it's going to turn into a knot. So why are we judging this? Why are we judging it because it goes up and down? So I saw one Sefer said very good. So there's a bir halacha. There's a bir halacha in Hilchos Tefillin, right? Which I never really understood. I'm still not sure exactly what it is, but he brought a nice raya from it. There's a bir halacha in Hilchos Tefillin that says that there's chadashim b'karv bo, means the people came along and they make a new different type of knot in the tefillin. He says they make a knot that you could slide it back and forth. It slides back and forth, right? And with that, they're tied the tefillin on you. And he says that's not a knot. If it slides back and forth, it's not a knot. That's called an aniva. That's what it says in the Bir Halacha, right? So they want to bring a raya that something slides back and forth is an aniva. Now, I'll tell you the truth. I never knew exactly what he was talking about. I thought the Lubavitchers have such a kesher. It's something like that. It's not exactly like that, but their kesher when you tighten. Let me tighten this one. When you tighten, so not only the loop. The string goes through the loop. So as you pull it, the loop becomes smaller and it tightens. You guys used to use that, I think, right? Right? The loop tightens, right? It's very, very hard to tie. It's extremely hard to tie. I don't know. I can't do it. I pay someone else to do it. Someone needs it. Right.
String, you said?
Mm-hmm.
String? There's string?
No string. They use the regular word suah, but we have like a loop, and you put something through the loop and you pull. Then when they pull, the loop becomes smaller. It becomes smaller, and their ritzus get killed from it because it gets so tight, and as they're tightening it pulls all the paint off. So what's it called? So they're better off with double black ritzus. Or someone told me the Rebbe didn't have it, so he wanted. I don't know, whatever, right? But I don't know if that's what. I don't know if that's the Bir Halacha. I'm not sure if that's the Bir Halacha was talking about. I think the Bir Halacha is probably talking about something like the slip knot. Something. It was probably some type of like slip knot like. Where you make a slip knot. It probably made like a slip knot in it, like this, a slip knot that you could pull up and down. Now, when you see the slip knot, here pulling up and down, the truth is, this is very similar to a tie. This is similar to a tie. So I'm still mesupik, right? When the guy, when one of the things Chutshani brings down, he says, if you make your tie in such a way, right, that it's a double aniva, so then it should be mutter. Maybe they made it something like this. I don't know if it would look nice, but maybe they made some type of slip knot, and you made this, since you make a slip knot in it, and you put this around your neck. Now let me try it. I'll try it, why not?
It doesn't work, it turns into a knot. I tried it.
We'll do it. 1 second. Make a slip knot like this, right? And put this around your neck.
Make it bigger.
Yeah, and make it around your neck. I don't know, somehow you solder the knot. Somehow you solder the knot and make it look decent.
Yeah, but when you untie it...
So then, when you pull this, it comes right out. Because it's a slip knot. Maybe that, I don't know, maybe. That's what the problem with the poskim is if you don't have a film in front of you, right? So, I don't know what exactly they're talking about.
Oh.
Right? In other words, I'm going to, let's see if I can do it. Tie it like this and make a slip knot in it, like this. It's not so terrible. As you would put this around your neck, it doesn't look so great. Maybe with a skinnier tie it would work better. And then you turn it into a tie, but it actually would slip out by pulling here, like I want. That's what I said. When you pull here is what I want it to pull there and come apart. So that'd be a slip knot. I don't know. Bekitzer Maisa.
You would have it on your shoulders then if you do that.
How do you do? You need a professional to teach you how to do it. There's probably a way to masada and make it good. Come out.
But even the ties that you did are slip knots because they all come apart.
No, this one
come on both sides.
Except
this one on one side.
Except for the Shelby one, they all come apart.
No, they come apart. But this one, when you make it like this, right, a slip knot, it comes. See, that's a nice. That's a nice knot.
Yeah.
Right, a slip knot. When you pull it apart, you can pull this down like a shoe and come apart.
Down.
These, you have to pull them out. So any double knot, if you pull it out, of course it comes apart. Why is that a raya? Pulling it out this way should not be a raya. Okay, so they want to tie in a knot like that. They want to say anything that slips back and forth is considered to be a bow. That slip back and forth is called a bow. So, slipping back and forth is called a bow. So they want to say this is mutter. The worst it should be is kesher gabi aniva. The worst it should be is there's a kesher on top. This is called a niva because it slides, right? In other words, it never got caught. A knot is something that gets caught. This never got caught. Even an overhand knot gets caught a little bit, but this doesn't get caught. It comes in and out. So then I would say that this is the aniva, and this is a kesher al gabi aniva because you went around, you made a kesher, like we showed in the beginning. That when you go around, it's a kesher. This is called kesher. This is called kesher on top of a niva. So that would be the ones who hold kesher al gabi aniva. So who's the ones who holds this on niva al gabi aniva? So here's a trick. This here is an aniva. This is a niva because it slides, right? And when you take it out, right, this is a niva because it comes apart. So it's a niva gabi niva. When it's together, you can't pull it apart. It doesn't come apart when it's together, right? When you have it all tied on, it's a workable knot. It doesn't fall apart on its own, right? But that's not how you judge it. You have to judge it individually, right? This underneath, this is called a zero. This is called a zero because it slides back and forth, right? And this on top is called a zero because when you take this out, it doesn't have any kiyum. It's not called a kesher. When it's on you, when you're tying it, like I said, when the first round, when you tie it, you say, this is one kesher, right? That's one kesher. That's the bottom kesher of your shoes. And then I go around, or whatever I do over here, this is also a kesher. I'm going through. Anytime you go through, it's called a kesher. There's no bows over here.
Oh, yeah.
So it should be kesher al gabi kesher, right? That was my problem. So they're saying no. They're saying the bottom, this, since it slides, is called a niva, right? So then let it be kesher al gabi niva. That's what Shlomo Zalman says. That's what they say b'shem Rav Moshe. Some yes, some no. Rav Sheinberg, they say b'shem him. But they're going to say this is it, and that's why it has to be out within 24 hours. Right? The other ones are going to tell you no, that since this slides back and forth, right? So this is a nothing, and since this falls apart, this is a nothing. And the only time you're going to have a problem is if you tie the fancy tie, the prat, call it prat, the club, the shelby. It's also a Jewish name, shelby. Right? That's only if you do the shelby knot, because the shelby knot doesn't come apart. Okay, that is what I think is going on over here. Halach l'maisa, right? So I didn't find Chacham saying anything, not one word about it. The Orlet Sion, not in the front but in the back, in that we have the Mem Zayin with all those things. He says this is called a kesher al gabi aniva, and it has to be untied within 24 hours.
Which one? The Windsor?
The Windsor. It's kesher al gabi aniva untied in 24 hours.
Even not the skinny
Not the
one.
Shelby.
The skin. Once it,
The Shelby's not. You can't say kesher al gabi. Well, the problem with the Shelby.
open up.
The problem with the Shelby is that even after you when you take it off, so there's a knot. So you're making a knot. So it should be. That's not the problem with it. The problem is that when you pull it apart, since this turns into a knot, so you made this knot already. You didn't make it now. The knot was made already. So since the knot was already made, you made it a knot in a. It's like making at the end, right? We said you're not allowed to do this. It's the same thing. You made a knot.
Isn't that only to hold something? It's not allowed.
No, even not holding anything. Within one thing, if it's tight, it's a knot. So it's no good. So the ones who wouldn't agree with, there were ones who said that even the Shelby's mutter, because they want to say that since, even though when you pull this out, it turns into a knot, but since there's something in between it when it was on you, so it stirs the knot. It's not such a knot. In other words, when you take it out, now you made the knot, but while it was in, it's not called a knot. So that's a little more difficult to work with, right? So I would have the Shelby.
So then you can't undo it then.
And you can't undo your tie, right? Can't undo your tie. Can't take it off. So now there's one more thing over here. They want a taina, like this. They want to say though, and this is a chiddush, but it's a good chiddush. We're going to keep it, right? When you make your Shelby knot, right? When you make your Shelby knot, so they asked since this is considered to be a knot that I just made, so maybe I'm not allowed to adjust it like this, because this is a knot. This is not true. You're allowed to adjust it. You can go up and down because this is not making the knot any tighter or looser. It's not doing anything. The real shaila is, and I'm going to say I don't have it complete yet. I want to investigate. My son came up with this one. his shalom was like this. Let's make a regular, normal tie. You can't do that yet because I got a Shelby. Got a Shelby tie.
Free ties.
Thanks Shmuley for bringing all the extra ties. Makes life easier.
Free.
Okay, now, when you make a regular, let's do a regular Windsor like this. I make a tie before Shabbos. Listen to this shiloh. This is a very good, very important shiloh, right? I go like this, and I put it in here like this. So, I made this. Oops. I made this tie. I made this tie before Shabbos, right? Running out the door. Most people running out the door Friday, right? Very good. Now, we spoke about once before, and I'll speak about it right now, right? The knot of your tzitzis at the end, right? It's a double knot. It's a double knot that you want to tie forever. You don't want to tie. That's its nature, right? Okay? You have to look this way. Right? A double knot. It says it becomes loose on Shabbos. So what people do when it gets loose on Shabbos is you pull it tight. So you're not allowed to do that. Right? And they talk about, even if the first kesher was made before Shabbos and the second one's after Shabbos, so you're not supposed to do that. Why not? Because you can't tie a knot. What happens if the knot is loose a little bit? It's a little bit loose. Drop loose. It's still a kesher, and you want to tighten it up. It's still there. It didn't fall apart like a whole loop. So you're allowed to tighten it? So you can't tighten it. You're making a tight knot. The shiloh's over here. I make my tie before Shabbos, and on Shabbos, I want to adjust it to make it tighter. That's what adjusting means. When you adjust your knot to make this part skinnier and this part, right, to pull it together, you're tightening the knot. Are you allowed to do that or not? So that's going to be a separate sugya. I want to go into it more first before I give out the final thing on it. If you have a knot that is a knot, but it's a loose knot, you're allowed to tighten the knot. You can make it a tighter knot.
Well, you're allowed to tie that knot with chila, then there shouldn't be a problem. Why should there be a problem to tighten it?
Because in other words, okay, so for someone who would be also for what to like that. He tied it before, someone would be also for. The next part of the sugya, which I'm not going to have enough time, I'm not going to do that today. Right, but the next part of the sugya is going to be there is a giant machlekes between the Taz and the Bir Halacha, but it's not just the Bir Halacha and it's not just the Taz. If let's say I have a knot, let's say my shoes, right? I have my shoes, and I want to. You're only allowed. You're supposed to keep it untied. You're supposed to tie it within 24 hours, right? What happens if I have a knot that's normally tied for more than 24 hours, and I decide I want to untie I'm going to tie it for less than 24 hours. I'm going to take it out tonight. I'll take it out. Are you allowed to tie that knot? Let's say like this. You have a guy who always kicks his shoes off. He ties his shoes and he always kicks his shoes off. Because he always kicks off his shoes. So now he wants to see, but on Shabbos, if he kicks off his shoes, the knot's going to last more than 24 hours. That's a problem. He's going to tie it Shabbos morning, and he's going to, let's say his shoe came untied. He's allowed to tie his shoe on Shabbos morning. Right? Or for me, somebody like me, who I never tie I keep my ties tied forever. I tie my ties once, and it stays like that forever. He wants to say that it gets creased. It doesn't make a difference if it gets creased because I never untie it anyway. Who cares? Right? It's always there. It doesn't make a difference. All right. Once in a while they adjust a little bit and then they attack a crease, like he said. But but I don't untie my ties. So now on Shabbos morning, right? So I need to tie a different tie. There's a new tie or whatever. When my wife gets me a new tie, right? My wife gets a new tie. It usually takes me about a month to put it on because I'm not allowed to tie a tie on Shabbos, and I always forget to do it every Shabbos. See what happens to the new tie, and I can't tie it. So I can't tie it, and I can't tie it, and it goes on forever like that. Okay, so I have an idea. See, even though I'm the type of person who ties it forever, so I'll have an idea. I'll get up in the morning. I'll tie the tie, and I have a mind to untie it tonight. Says the Taz, that's 100% mutter. It goes with your das. Says the Bir Halacha, it can't be true, and he takes it apart. Why does he take it apart? One way he takes it apart, he brings, there's a couple rayas. One raya he brings is from in Hilchos, it's in Hilchos Shabbos, says you're not allowed to tie tzitzis on Shabbos. You're not allowed to tie tzitzis on Shabbos. You're allowed to tie tzitzis on Shabbos? Absolutely not, right? Says the Prima Gun has a kasha. He goes, why can't you tie tzitzis on Shabbos? He goes, just time, have in mind your own time tonight. Let's say I need it, so I'll tie it and I'll untie it tonight. Why aren't I allowed to do that?
Because it's not going to happen.
Right? Why aren't you allowed to do that? That's his kasha. Ricky Vega has a different kasha. They said in the base of Mikdash, right? They said that if one of the instruments, the kinor or whatever, breaks, one of the strings breaks, so they said you're not allowed to make a kesher, you have to make an aniva, right? So he says, why can't you make a kesher? He says, make the kesher, have mind untied for 24 hours. Right? What's the big deal? Anyway, and there it's even better than the Prima Gun's kasha. The Prima Gun's kasha is worse because these things you usually permanently. So then some hold as Gezeira D'Rabbanan that you're going to, since you tie it permanently, maybe you'll leave it permanently. You'll tie it and leave it permanently, and you'll be over Nisr. But in the base of Mikdash, so if the instrument breaks, even if however they tie it, they're getting rid of that string. You're going to get rid of that string. You're not going to keep it that way because you don't want to keep because it doesn't work well. It's a bidyev in music, right? It's not going to work well. So he says, why can't she undo it? And they bleib schwer. They said the Prima Garden has a lot of. They said Bir Halacha says. Up to one more. The Bir Halacha says that he has a lot of his answers are all doichek, right? Some say his answers is what the Bir Halacha says. That you have to look there to see how it works. Okay, but Kitzur, so big machlekes whether you're allowed to have in das or not, right? So the Shai is going to come out. Lamaisa the Bir Halacha is like that. There's a Taz, there's others like that. The Riki Veger and the Prima Garden seem to hold what the Taz holds like because they ask as a kasha. Lamaisa Chacham Avaji goes through the whole thing and he knocks out the Taz. No Taz, he goes with the Bir Halacha. Chazan Avaji. Right?
Which is
It doesn't matter what your das is. So now's the problem. Here's the problem. There's a lot of complications in the problems, and we're not going to finish that today for sure. The problem is if you have a guy like Menashe, right, who always kicks off his shoes and never unties his shoes. So for him, the Bir Halacha says it doesn't go with your das, it goes with the knot. If it's a knot that's normally tied for long term, so then your das doesn't help. Or if you're the type of person who always ties it for long term, so it's the same thing. You always tie it a certain way, so it doesn't go with your das now, it goes with the type of knot it is. Depends on you. So if your guy always kicks off his shoes, so on Shabbos morning, if that shoelace comes untied, you can't tie your shoes. Right? And if you're like me who doesn't untie your ties, you can never tie a tie. Right? That's where it comes in.
Even a single
Okay,
tie.
who was asking this? Oh, so you say because someone says you always untie within 24 hours. So that if you always untie your tie within 24 hours, if you're the type, so there's also shalom in 24 hours. Someone told me, he said he's makbid to untie his ties, but he doesn't do it Friday night. Motzei Shabbos he unties his ties. From Motzei Shabbos, from Friday night till the morning, so he leaves his tie as it is. It looked nice last night, it's fine. And then whatever. Motzei Shabbos he takes apart his ties. He's not going to leave it like that for a week.
That's more than 24 hours, though.
That's a problem.
That's more than 24.
That's the problem. That's more than 24 hours. Right? They talk about Talmud Chacham used to stay up all night learning, and so they tie their shoes, and then they don't take them off. Shoes by night could be a Shiloh, but we go to sleep in the morning anyway. Take off our shoes. So it depends on your minhag, and then that's where the problem arises. Okay, that's where the problems will come out. But so anyway, there's different opinions. Like I said, the only Sephardi posek I found who talked about our neckties was the Litzin. So far, I haven't found the Chazon Avaja. I'm going through all the notes and I'm going to try to find it. Believe that, I'm going to try to find it, but so far I haven't found it. He doesn't talk about it. I'm not sure why. He talks about the shoelaces. He says within 24 hours, really 7 days he holds, but he doesn't talk about this. So if it's Kesher Gabi Niv, it's no good. Okay, that's it.
Rabbi,
Rabbi,
he's recording.
that it's,